Hi there friends, thank you for visiting my channel Catspaw Canteen. I'm Kenny and today we're going to be making sukiyaki steak. If you've ever traveled to Japan, you may have heard the term sukiyaki before. It is a beef hot pot dish. It is sweet and savory and very delicious. And being half Japanese, half American myself, I thought I'd combine two nationality dishes together. Steak from America and sukiyaki, and combine it together to make one delicious dish. So come follow me into the kitchen and I'll show you how I make it. Let's quickly prepare some of the vegetables. I got right here 2 leaves of Napa cabbage or Chinese cabbage. Now the way I'm going to cut it is I'm going to use my little knife here, and instead of chopping directly down, I'm going to do a diagonal cut like this, kind of like making sashimi, like this right here, like a sharp edge. It's just a decorative way that they serve sukiyaki. The vegetables in sukiyaki look very pretty. We're going to do essentially the same thing with 2 stalks of green onions, diagonal cut. There we go. I've gone ahead and quickly prepared the Shimeji mushrooms as well. When it comes to using mushrooms in your sukiyaki dish, you could use one of 3, either the Shimeji, Shiitake, or enoki mushrooms. And today I've got what I could find at the grocery store, just some Shimeji. I've washed it and cut the root off. And lastly, I'm going to use a 3rd block of extra firm tofu and just cut it into smaller blocks here. About 4 blocks or so. One's a little bigger than I expected, but that's okay. Now it just wouldn't be sukiyaki if we didn't use some shirataki konnyaku noodles. These are really good for diets, but we've always put this in sukiyaki from a long time ago. Really good for if you want a substitute for like chow mein noodles as well. But in order to prep this, all you need to do is put it in a colander and rinse it with hot water. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Alright, I've gone ahead and washed the shirataki in hot water. Just a forewarning, shirataki can have a pretty pungent smell to it when you open up the package. Kind of a fishy-ish smell. There's no fish in it, but it does have a fishy smell. When you rinse it with hot water, most of the smell cleans away. Now let's go ahead and prep our steak. Now, as with any steak, we're going to go ahead and season this. I got a little bit of SPG, salt, pepper, garlic powder. Pour some on, rub it in. I don't want to over season it, but I don't want to under season as well, because when we cook the steak, I want a little bit of crust to be on there. But we're also going to be stewing it a little because it is sukiyaki. It might sound weird, but you know, I like to experiment. So let's go ahead and rub the seasoning in, just like that. There we go. Get out your medium-sized frying pan, drizzle a little bit of olive oil in there. And I already got the heat going on high. Okay, and go ahead, put your steak down. So today I'm using a relatively thicker steak than usual, so I'm aiming for a rare to medium rare because I'm going to be slicing it and then putting it in the stew. So I'm going to leave it on there for about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes and then flip it over and do the same. Okay, it's been about 1 minute and about 10 seconds or so. So go ahead and flip. Oh, yep, some good crust on there going on. And another minute on there. Alright, so it's been about another minute or so. And yep, looks like we got some crust on it. So turn off the heat and let's go let it rest for a bit. Okay. Take it off the frying pan and let it rest. While we're letting it rest, we're going to go ahead and stew up the rest of the ingredients and then slice this up in a bit here. Now while the pan is still hot, put in some mirin. I put in about 1/4 cup of mirin and about the same for soy sauce here. And throw in 2 teaspoons of sugar. Go ahead, stir that around, help the sugar melt down a bit. Add in a touch of water, just about a tablespoon or two. And now that it's stewing, we're gonna go ahead and add our vegetables in there. We're gonna do this like a hot pot, so you want sections. So we're gonna start out with a Napa cabbage section. It's a pretty big amount, maybe one leaf would have been enough. And then some green onions in there. I'm just gonna add 2 tofu instead of all 4 of the pieces I cut because I'm running out of space. And some shimeji mushrooms and about a handful of shirataki. And add a touch more water to this. Probably about 1/4 cup or so. And go ahead and put a lid on top of that and let that stew on low heat for about 10 minutes. Alright, now let's go back to this steak here. I'm going to slice it diagonally just like the vegetables. It should be still pretty rare, and yes it is. That's what exactly like I wanted it to be. There you go. Okay, so I've let it stew for a good 10 minutes or so. Some of them floated away, so let's fix that. There we go. Just the noodles a bit and the tofu. Make some space for the steak. And there we go. Put the steak right in there. And go ahead and close the lid, and we're gonna let that stew for about 2-3 minutes or so on very low heat. It's been about a minute and a half. Just checking in, and wanted to baste my steak in the sukiyaki soup here a bit. Okay, put the lid back on, and another minute or two. Alright, it's been another minute since I basted it, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the heat. I don't want my steak to overcook, that's my main concern. Let's go ahead and plate this up. Okay, let's go ahead and plate this somehow. Maybe a little bit at a time here. Steak down, shirataki noodles, shimeji, green onions, Napa cabbage, then the tofu. And we don't want to waste that soup, so I'm going to pour in just a bit of it. Cover the steak, shirataki, cover everything in there. It is a hot pot after all. Now back in Japan, we eat sukiyaki with a certain dipping sauce. Not really a sauce, an egg. Go ahead and mix that up. Now you don't have to do this part. I just like the raw egg. Not everyone likes raw egg. I was born in a country that eats raw egg on a daily basis, so to me this is absolutely delicious. So if you don't like it, don't copy this part. To each their own, and when in Rome is what I say. And there you have a deliciously different meal, and I call it sukiyaki steak. Alright, let's go ahead and give it a good taste test here. A big ol' chunky steak. Dip it in egg here. There you go. Alright, itadakimasu. That is divine. My goodness. While I was chewing, for a split second I forgot I was filming. It is that good. I'm gonna try some of the other stuff here. Some of the veggies and the shimeji mushrooms. Dip that in the egg. Unbelievable. Now back home in Japan we would use thin slices of beef to make sukiyaki, but I don't think there's anything wrong in using a big chunky piece of steak. This is so good. I'm gonna go for another big piece here. Dip that into the egg. Yeah. Man, I am at a loss for words with how delicious this dish is. Well folks, I hope you liked today's dish. It was absolutely fun to make. Not quite hot pot, not quite steak, but when you combine the two, it becomes a magnificent dish. And I feel like I'm putting me in there in the dish because I'm half Japanese, and this dish is certainly not quite Japanese, not quite American either. But if you liked today's recipe, please go ahead and drop a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you back at the canteen real soon.